Welcome to XLCR 32, the online news source for the Excelsior Project from the New York Council of Deliberation.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the premiere edition of the Excelsior Initiative's Leadership Series. Today, we have a great program for you. My name is Rick Powell. I'm an active member of Supreme Council for New York and a proud co-leader for the Excelsior team. I'd like to quickly introduce our team that's here with us today. We have our presenter, illustrious Robert Siebold, 33rd degree. We have Brother Bill Nugent, and 32nd degree, and Brother Peter Flehan, 32nd degree. Our other members are distinguished Brother Myron Debutante, who couldn't be here with us today, as well as illustrious Cliff Jacobs. At this point, I will turn things over to Brother Bill to lay down some ground rules for today. Take it away, Bill.
Thank you, illustrious Powell. I appreciate that very much. Welcome, brothers, to our program today. Just a few house cleaning rules while we get started. We are trying to keep an eye on bandwidth here. So we've got two rules. First is muting your own sound. Not that we don't want to hear you guys, but when the Shih Tzu and the Poodle get into a fight, it sounds like a murder scene on our end. So we want to kind of keep the noise background level down. And then also, if you could stop your own video, that'll save bandwidth. We'll see your name. We know you're here, you're in the inbox, so don't worry about that. Off to the side, if it's set up correctly, you will see a chat box, and on the bottom of the chat box, it says, to everyone. As we go through the program, if you do have some questions, please type them in there. Once Bob is done with his presentation, we'll spend some time in the background doing a little bit of Q&A. And then a few other quick speakers. So with that, I would like to turn this over to Brother Flehan to introduce our speaker of the day.
Thank you very much, Brother Nugent. I appreciate that. Welcome, my brothers and princes. As you know, the lifeblood of any volunteer organization is its members. And it's the essence that keeps the machine moving forward, and Scottish Rite is no different than any of other bodies. So having the right people represent your values, one of its ambassadors, consistently looking for new members is a tough job. It takes a special breed, and today that's our focus, to explore best practices that make up what a great ambassador and ambassador training program look like. Our presenter today comes to us with over 35 years of Masonic experience. He's a member of Chicago Masonic Lodge in Pleasant Valley, New York, a past monarch of Tribe Co. Bed Grotto, and currently serves as the president of the Empire State Grotto Association. A member of the Valley of the Hudson, AASR, our featured speaker is a past commander-in-chief, past sovereign prince, has been awarded the Meritorious Service Award, and this past summer in Cleveland, Ohio, was coronated a 33rd degree Mason. Outside of the craft, he has worked for companies such as Kyocera, Panasonic, Xerox, and is currently now with ADT Commercial Security as their director of training. He brings years of experience in the training field and coaching space, in developing people the best they can be in life's calling. So it is my pleasure, on behalf of the New York COD, to introduce the co-director of the Excelsior program, Brother Bob Siebold. Take it away, Brother Bob.
Hey, thanks very much, Peter, and good morning, everybody. I'm going to share my screen with you really quickly here on one moment.
Where they are.
We'll get rolling. Bill, I think you need to mute everybody, except for me, I guess, and because it looks like we're hearing a little background noise. So if you can do that, it'd be great. I'll tell you, what a week! What a week! What a week! You know, if you think about this, William Shatner at 90 went into space. He's the oldest human being ever to go into space. So truly, he's the first 90-year-old to go where no man's gone before. We've got some bad audio there.
Bob, you'll have to unmute yourself, please.
Okay, there we go. Okay. All right. Thanks, Bill, for muting everyone. So again, William Shatner went into space. He's 90 years old. He's actually gone where no 90-year-old man has ever gone before, which is kind of cool. And this week, we also kick off our Excelsior program. So I'm very excited to be launching this program to you all today. I've got some housekeeping rules too that I think are going to help level set where we're going today with this program. I would strongly advocate to all of you to take notes. I was raised that a long pencil is better than a short memory. So take all the copious notes you'd like, and we will certainly discuss that and any questions you might have. This deck obviously is going to be available, and there's going to be a recording that will be posted on the COD website. So communication regarding that will be going out to the broader organization very, very soon. Let me throw this out as well. If your Valley desires more one-on-one coaching, I will be happy to make myself available for either a live presentation or a virtual one with your ambassadors, your ambassador director, and any kind of potential ambassadors that you might have. So we can certainly talk about that offline, and I will make my information available to all of you if you want to give me a call about that. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to really level set this presentation by telling you to think about a couple of things. Let's discuss, and in your mind, let's think about expansion and reach. How do we expand members into your Valley? And I'm telling you that ambassadors are the key. How do we consistently brand? And this, I think, is hugely important. How do we consistently brand who we are to a diverse audience? And I'm telling you, ambassadors are the key there as well. How do we support and achieve a Valley of Excellence status? And there's a couple of valleys that are on this program today that achieve that. And I can tell you, one of the ways they did it was by having a very, very strong ambassador program. And I can tell you that that person needs to be, there we go. And to support that Valley of Excellence status, ambassadors are a tremendous component of the success of the Valley of Excellence program. And Ed Keir, you're going to have to please leave your audio off, muted. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So what I want you to do today is enjoy our time together. I want to thank you for spending your most precious asset with me, and that's your time. So let's get going. All right. So you're going to go through a deck today with me that, quite frankly, was designed for the Valley of the Hudson. However, though, since it's a PowerPoint deck, your Valley can modify this deck as they wish. We'll make sure that this deck gets loaded up onto the COD website. So all you're really going to have to do is just do a little simple copy and paste. I wouldn't make any major changes to this presentation. I think you'll find that it's very solid in its delivery, and it's really a three-part presentation. So let me go through that with you today. Hold on one moment. So our agenda today is we're gonna go through welcome introductions, and I want you to think of this as if you were going through this program really for the first time as a potential ambassador. So we're gonna go through welcome introductions. We're gonna talk about really in section one why an ambassador program, why it's so important, what your role as a potential new ambassador will be. So that's really section number one. Section number two is an overview of the Scottish Rite. And in our case, because this was designed for the Valley of the Hudson, what the Valley of the Hudson brings to the equation as far as joining our Valley and what you would get out of that. So benefits of membership really is part number two. And part number three really is how do you market the Scottish Rite? And then certainly we can have some open questions and answers. So one of the things that I always like to do in training is I like to really know my audience. I like to set the temperature of who's there. So what I would strongly suggest you do is that when you run this program, you get to know your audience, get to know their name, what lodge they're from, how many years in Freemasonry, whether it's 1 month or 20 years or 30 years, who knows? You want to understand their pedigree. You certainly want to know what perspective they come from their years in the ancient accepted Scottish Rite. And I like to ask this question. I think it's very poignant. Why do they want to be an ambassador? All right. I was having a virtual conversation with someone earlier this week, and he said something to me which I felt was very telling about their program. He said, when guys become an ambassador in my Valley, they think of it's like a very exclusive thing, and it's something that shouldn't be shared with anyone. And that's the complete opposite of what the ambassador program is about. It's not an exclusive club. It's an inclusive club. We want to make sure that everyone knows who the ambassadors are and what they're here to do and to share Scottish Rite. So I think it's important that you level set what these guys why they want to become an ambassador and what they want to get out of it. And the other thing I like to do for fun is I always like to ask everybody, tell me something you wouldn't know about you ordinarily. Like for instance, I'll share with the group here today. When I was actually a salesman in New York City, I was photographed by a film crew by City Hall down in New York City. And about 8 weeks later, a friend of mine who happened to be the best man in my wedding, we were in DeMolay together. He called me and he said, "Hey, do you realize you're in the opening credits of a new TV show? It's a cop show." And I said, "Really?" And sure enough, I didn't have a a DVR at the time or a video recorder. So I remember I watched NYPD Blue the next day, or next week rather. And sure enough, I was in the opening credits of that show, and I was in it for 5 years, which was kind of funny. So that's kind of a little unknown fact about me. But if you watch a rerun of that show, you'll see me in it. So it's fun that when you go around and you get to know who your audience is. Again, ask them their name, their lodge, how many years in Freemasonry, how many years in the Scottish Rite, why do they want to be ambassador, and get to know a fun thing about them. So let's dig deep into the ambassador program. All right. I think you want to know why you want to be an ambassador. What is it that we look for? And for me, there's really four real strong principles that we should really base the ambassador program on. It's networking, encouragement, assisting, and building. Let me break those down for you. So networking means that you're going to consistently network yourself and introduce potential brothers across our valley to consider Scottish Rite membership. There's a lot of men who I don't think really understand what the Scottish Rite is all about. And you as an ambassador, it's your job. It's where you're being held accountable to be able to deliver that message in a strong, poignant way. We also want to make sure that we want to encourage to meet through inspiring, convenient, and enjoyable Scottish Rite experience. The more we can make the experience of that journey in Scottish Rite exciting and new to them, I'm quite in the mindset that you're going to be able to get Masons to want to be part of that. You want to be able to just not give someone a petition to join the Scottish Rite. You want to assist them in that journey to get them from what I would call inception to close. All right, we'll talk more about that as we go through it. And then what you also want to do is you want to continue building a strong fraternal network beyond the doors of the traditional Blue Lodge. So in other words, a lot of men who belong to the Scottish Rite also belong to the York Rite. They might belong to the Shrine. They might belong to Grotto, all different kinds of organizations. You want to consistently keep saying, "Hey, listen, it's great that I welcome you today as a Shriner, but I'd also like to welcome you as a Scottish Rite member." So we want to make sure that as an ambassador, you're always networking, encouraging, assisting, and building. So what are some of the program qualifications that we look for? Well, again, as I alluded earlier about the one gentleman was talking about his value, how the ambassador is more of an exclusive organization. That's not what it's about. All right. I always try to go through men that aren't hooked on titles. Titles really are not supposed to mean anything. It's really the highest title that you can really receive in Freemasonry is that of just being a brother. All right. So we want men that really can get on the level and, don't talk about the medals, don't talk about the honors, but talk about what the program is all about. We want these men to be dedicated Blue Lodge Masons. We want them to be truly interested in expanding the bonds of fellowship that Scottish Rite can provide. We also want them to be active, obviously, all right, actively participate in a vast network. Our ranks include members who are active, dedicated Blue Lodge Masons, and they're very proud, quite frankly, to be called a Scottish Rite Ambassador. When I was a Scottish Rite Ambassador in my early days of Scottish Rite, I was very proud to walk into a lodge and I had my Scottish Rite Ambassador jewel on it. People would say, "Hey, what is that?" And I'd say, "Yeah, I'm a Scottish Rite Ambassador." And they'd say, "Well, what does that mean?" And I'd say, "Well, let me tell you more about Scottish. Let's have a cup of coffee downstairs, or let's talk more about potentially building a program as a work of the evening about Scottish Rite. Let's talk about it." We obviously, with these men, we also want them to be obviously very, very active in the Valley. All right. We want them to attend their local Valley body regularly. We want them to have a strong presence at the Fall and Spring Valley reunions. That's very important. And obviously, we want them to have the ability to speak. We want them to have the ability to speak about the value of the Scottish Rite, the Valley itself, and the events. For instance, this week I was talking to a couple of brothers from other valleys and actually some non-Scottish Rite Masons. This Sunday we're having our Feast of Tishri, and I said, "Hey, it's in Middletown, New York." I said, "You should come to it. It's a great feast." I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll even buy your dinner for you." And they were like, "Wow, that sounds amazing. I'm going to look and see if my schedule allows me to do that." So again, we always want to be on the cutting edge of talking about what our Valley does. And obviously, we want to seek out men of good character whose focus it is to strengthen that fraternal chain. I believe very much that men who are active in New York Rite will probably find a similar activity level in Scottish Rite and vice versa. So we want to make sure that we're constantly looking to expand the Scottish Rite footprint within our Masonic districts. So what are Valley ambassadors encouraged to do? Well, obviously, we want them to stay connected with their lodge and district officers. That's huge, all right? You've got to be very, very connected to your own mother lodge, but you also have to be connected very heavily into the district officers. You want to talk about sponsoring candidates for membership. Talk up Scottish Rite whenever possible. Again, this is all that marketing aspect. You want to stay informed about the Valley, and you want to subscribe to multiple different avenues of media that I feel are very important. So if your Valley doesn't have a social media program, we can certainly talk to you more about that. But you want to start to things like your Valley Facebook page, a Valley website if you have it, or maybe an Instagram feed if you have that. I would strongly encourage you to go to the COD website. There's a lot of great information there that if you're not tuned into that, you really should be. I don't know how many of you have ever been to the NMJ website, but I will tell you that is a plethora of information of what's going on in the Northern Masonic Church world from the Scottish Rite perspective. It is phenomenal, and the amount of resources there are awesome. And then the Northern Light magazine, I think, is a phenomenal publication. In fact, there was a couple of men that I had pitched Scottish Rite to, and they said, "Well, can you tell me more about the Scottish Rite?" And I certainly did. And I called our Valley secretary, Dave Barkstead, and I said, "Hey, Dave, if you got a couple extra copies of the Northern Light magazine, I would like to give it to these guys." He said, "Sure." And I met him up in Ulster Lodge, up in Saugerties. He gave me about 10 or 15 copies of the Northern Light. I handed that out. And I got to tell you, I got nothing but positive feedback from these non-Scottish Rite Masons. Said, "Wow, I never realized how active the Scottish Rite is and the programs that you guys have. How do I get into this?" And of course, now they're members of our Valley moving forward, which was awesome. And then obviously, our Valley ambassadors are certainly encouraged to attend all events, whether it's fraternal, charitable, and certainly social events. So that's very important. So to net it out, ambassadors provide that vital link, I believe, between, in this case, the Valley of the Hudson or your Valley and all Masonic organizations. In our case, we call it the Greater Hudson River Valley region. That's where we're located. But wherever your region is, that's what an ambassador does. An ambassador is always that link between what the Valley's doing and all the other Masonic organizations. They are the de facto representative. The ambassadors also create a great two-way flow of communication. So in other words, they're always flowing back and forth to lodges. They're flowing back and forth to maybe other independent Masonic organizations, what the Valley is doing and what Scottish Rite is doing. I will tell you, perfect example of that, to clarify what I mean by that second bullet point, is during the pandemic, a lot of Masonic activities were shut down. To the flip side, Scottish Rite was booming, and we were bringing in members right and left because of our virtual degree program, the Night at the Rite program. As soon as individuals started hearing about that, because our members were yearning to get back into some type of Masonic activity, I got to tell you, the more men I spoke to about, hey, you can start to build in your passport, you can start to have that camaraderie, though it's virtual, they were really excited about that. So again, you've got to communicate what the Scottish Rite is doing at all times. Publicize Scottish Rite activities and proactively support Masonic activities of all kinds. Again, whether it's something that your Valley is doing or if it's something that the district is doing, and you can stand up and be that steward of Scottish Rite and say, hey, this is what this is what we're doing across the NMJ, this is what our Valley's doing. That's huge, and that's what we want our ambassadors to be doing. So really, if you think about it, ambassadors establish and build the Scottish Rite brand throughout the Valley and the district. You are the walking, talking brand of how that Valley is going to be perceived by non-Scottish Rite Masons, and quite frankly, Scottish Rite Masons as well. But for those who don't really know what we do, they're going to look to you to be the poster boy of what the Valley and Scottish Rite is all about. So it's important that you really embrace these tenets. Be that link, be that two-way flow of communication, publicize what's going on, and establish a good communication protocol with all the people that you come in contact with, for sure. So what are the tools that you're going to need to become a Scottish Rite ambassador in our world? Well, you're going to receive an ambassador kit, and that ambassador kit is going to include some Northern Masonic jurisdiction brochures. There's going to be a few copies of the Northern Light magazine. There might be some videos that you can show. All right, and then obviously training just like this on how to drive candidates to the NMJ online petition. All right, it's a rather simple kit, but it's powerful in what's included. Obviously, every valley should be offering full training on the characteristics of a successful ambassador, and you're getting a taste of that today. And obviously, I'm going through this quickly because we really only about an hour to spend with each other. But if you take this training and really get granular with it about what your valley does, and you'll see this in the next few slides, that's very important. You also get a really nice Northern Masonic Jurisdiction Ambassador Jewel, and I believe this is a certificate, at least in my valley. We create a certificate for those men who are ambassadors. Tell them that they have been an ambassador, they've passed the ambassador training, they show competency in what they need to do. And we like to make sure that we make a big deal of our ambassadors, because quite frankly, being an ambassador is a lot of responsibility. A lot of people often ask me, is there any paperwork that I got to fill out as an ambassador? And you know what? We don't want to make this paper intensive, but we also want to track what's going on. So we have Valley Ambassador reports. There's 2 reports. One is due the 31st of December. The other one is due May 31st. And what that basically does is nothing more than track your activity. It cites areas where maybe you need some additional coaching or assistance from the Valley leadership team. So let's think of it this way. We have an ambassador who's tracking all of the activity, and he's going to multiple lodge meetings a month. He's talking about Scottish Rite. That ambassador is really doing his job. But we've got another ambassador who's only going to, let's say, a few events or only a few lodges sporadically throughout the year. Well, he might need a little coaching. All right, we might need to sit down and say, hey, is it a travel issue? Is it a time issue? Do you not know what to say? Let's sit down and have some coaching. And that assistance can certainly come from the Valley leadership team or your ambassador director. Those reports, quite frankly, are sent up to your Valley secretary. They're reviewed not only by the Valley, but they're sent up to the COD, and also the COD would then move them up to Supreme Council. We also have a thing called a candidate tracking form. And basically what that is that's the prospect's contact information. Again, we sometimes, if you don't have that information written down, you can lose track of who you talk to and what their personal information is. It also gives you an opportunity to log dates of interaction. I met Peter Flehan. I have all of his personal information. I spoke to him on January 5th. I gave him a call on January 15th to invite him to a Scottish Rite activity that we're having in the Valley. We're having a cigar night. I invited Peter to come down to it. I know that we're having a spring reunion in, let's say, April and May. Kept in touch with Peter over multiple times. Actually invited him to a virtual reunion that the NMJ is running. Let's say that's in February, March. And then invited Peter to the reunion in April, so he actually gets to meet everybody. That's what I mean by logging dates of interaction, all right? It also allows you to chart membership progression. So if Peter goes cold on me for some reason, I can circle back and say, hey, Peter, we spoke back in mid-November. I was just wondering how things are going. Did you have an opportunity to read the Scottish Rite magazine? Did you have an opportunity to take a look at our website, whatever it might be? Again, I think it also chronicles that initial conversation to petition to membership. And that's very important. And that's really the journey that we want to take a potential Scottish Rite prospect through. We want to talk to them about what Scottish Rite is, have those conversations, get a petition in their hand or have them do it virtually, and then get them on the membership rolls. That's really important. And I like a candidate tracking form because it manages the process from one source. And certainly we can provide that to you guys to let you show what that means. So that's really, if you think about this presentation, that's really part number 1, all right? What is it all about? What are we looking for in an ambassador? But it obviously, when you're talking to a potential Scottish Rite member, you have to have a good presentation to talk about the Scottish Rite. And that's what this PowerPoint deck will give you. This second part is an overview of what the Scottish Rite is. So let me go through this with you. I actually like this. I did a lot of research on, if I was to encompass what the Scottish Rite is in a nutshell, what would it be? All right. And I think that these bullet points really zero in on what we are as a fraternity. We expand upon the fundamental principles of Freemasonry. I often hear, that Scottish Rite is the college of Freemasonry. And I really think that's an awesome way to brand ourselves, because we take those fundamental Blue Lodge degrees and we take them a lot further. All right. And I like that. Explores Masonic teachings more deeply. That's one of the things that I liked about the Scottish Rite, because, we talk about esoteric topics. We talk about historical topics. I love that. All right. So I think that's really kind of neat. It builds upon ethical and philosophical teachings of the traditional Blue Lodge. So absolutely, it takes what you learn as an enter apprentice on that journey forward, and it takes it even further. And I talk a lot about that when I'm pitching Scottish Rite to a potential new member. In fact, it's interesting. I was talking to my sons when I got back from Cleveland after receiving my 33rd, and I said to my sons, I said, I got to tell you, when going through that process and really going through all the degrees, I just got my golden passport. I said, and going through the Blue Lodge, I said, it really rounds out who you are as a man. And I said, it teaches you more of those ethical morals and more philosophical morals, and teaches you really to be a better individual, quite frankly. And my son said to me, wow, Dad, I can't wait to be part of this. So it's exciting. And, they're young, they're in their 20s, and they really want to become Masons, but they see the value in that. And I think that's awesome. Degrees show a different side of Freemasonry, not found in our other degrees. So again, I touched upon the historical aspect, the esoteric aspect. It seeks to enrich the philosophy of the symbolic lodge. So we take what you learn as an entered apprentice through that journey, and I think we accentuate it and make it even stronger. And at the end of the day, it does help make good men even better. All right. And that's what I love about Scottish Rite. So if someone, grabbed you, or you had an elevator pitch and you only had, 2 minutes to talk to somebody about Scottish Rite from a 35,000 foot view, I think this does a really nice job. I also like to talk about our core values, which, is something that I hold really near and dear to my heart. Reverence for God, devotion to country, integrity, justice, toleration, and service. Does that go far from what we're taught as entered apprentices and fellow craft and then obviously Master Masons? No, actually, again, Scottish Rite accentuates that and just takes it out a little further. And I love that. I think that's a phenomenal way to think about that. That our fraternity as Scottish Rite Masons has these core values, and this is what we hold dear to ourselves. And then I think that in anything, you've got to show the benefits. What are the benefits of membership? In Scottish Rite Masonry, from my perspective, it does multiple things. It aids mankind's search for identity and destiny in God's universe. And I know that sounds kind of heady a little bit on a Saturday morning, but really, for me, what it's done is it's shown me where my place is, what I'm supposed to be doing. I know that I'm doing good work. I know that I'm helping brothers who might need a leg up or a hand up. And that's what Scottish Rite has taught me. It's also taught me that, to be around men of good character is a good thing. So it's helped me identify who I am and my destiny and in God's plan for my life. It does produce wiser men to create a wiser world. And if you think about the men that have been in Scottish Rite, brilliant men over centuries, these are men that have influenced society. And I say, there's got to be something to this. There's got to be a reason why these men belong to this ancient craft and why they're part of Scottish Rite, because they too want to improve themselves and in turn actually make the world and improve their society. And I think that's awesome. Foster happier men for a happier world. Obviously, one of the things I think that's great about Scottish Rite is when you go to a Scottish Rite meeting, you're surrounded by men of good character, men that you want to hang out with, men that you want to potentially get to know better. And when I leave a Scottish Rite event, I'm actually feeling really good about myself. I'm feeling good that I'm part of this. I'm feeling good that I'm part of a larger organization that's doing such great things, not only for its members, but for the world in total. So I think that's awesome. And that's something we got to talk about. We discussed the benefits of membership, molding better men to perpetuate a better world, kind of very similar to what I just said. Last thing, promote the dignity of every person and humanity in all activities of life. So what I find is that men who gravitate towards the Scottish Rite, and quite frankly, Freemasonry as a whole, want to be better people. They're the kind that when they see, let's say, an elderly person who's struggling in the grocery store with bags of groceries, they're the one that says, hey, can I help you? They're the one that they go to their neighbor and say, hey, I see you got a lot of snow on your driveway. Let me help you shovel your driveway. They're the men that reach into their wallet or their pocket and say, hey, I know somebody's in need. They need a few dollars. Let me help them. So I'd like to be part of that. And when I talk about the benefits of membership in the Scottish Rite, I accentuate that. And what I would strongly suggest all of you to do is to take these bullet points and dig into your own world, dig into your own past, your own experiences, and say, this is how the Scottish Rite from these perspectives have really benefited me. And I think that it will benefit you if you become part of us. So becoming a member of the Rite, it's really simple. And I think that one of the things that I kind of have as a principle in my life is, if the simpler, the better. If I can get something down to a very granular, and I can make sure that whatever I'm doing, either for someone or for myself, is simple is better. So what I tell individuals is very simply is, all you got to do is petition a local valley. That's it. All right. You need to be vouched for by a member in good standing. And I would hopefully the pastor will do that, or potentially someone they know in the valley, and hopefully they have friends in the valley. You receive the 4th and the 32nd degrees, along with 3 additional Scottish Rite degrees that focus on the rites of core values. A lot of our individuals who are new to the Scottish Rite or don't know about us think, I've got to go through all of these degrees in one day, or I've got to go through them all in a month. And that's not the case. So as an ambassador, you need to make that process very simple so everyone understands. Minimum of 5 degrees for full membership is required. So I often pitch it this way. It was 3 degrees to become a Mason. It's 2 more and you're part of the Scottish Rite. And you can do that over time, all right? We always talk about the fall or spring reunion, how that's a one-day event, or through inter-valley travel. You can discuss that as well. That's one of the things I like about Scottish Rite, is going to another valley. One of the best experiences I ever had as a Scottish Rite Mason was going to the Valley of Boston. I went with Dave Barkstead and Mark Isaacs and a few others. We went up to Boston, had a phenomenal time, great time, all right? So you want to talk about that inter-valley travel, and you want to talk about the fun that they can have at a fall or spring reunion, and build that up and say, you're going to be a special guest that day because you're new to the valley. I think that's important. Again, the candidate doesn't have to receive all 29 degrees. It can be done over time. And often I hear, oh man, it's another dues card. I got to pay more dues. Well, membership fees vary and generally include a member cap and case, but that is really up to the valley. That's not a standard practice, but really it comes up to the valley of what they want to do. I think this is very important as well, is showing them what the degree system looks like. So I made this very simple and very, very easy to really to absorb. There's 4 bodies: the Lodge of Perfection, the Council of Princes of Jerusalem, the Chapter of Rose Croix, and the Consistory. And these are what each one of these bodies are responsible for in delivering those degrees. All right. A lot of individuals will say, well, do I have to belong to all 4 bodies? Well, when you belong to a valley, you belong to the valley, and the valley consists of these 4 bodies. But maybe, you might want to spend more time in the LOP, or maybe you want to spend more time in the Chapter of Rose Croix, whatever it is. You'll see in some of our slides in the Valley of the Hudson, we're a little bit unique because we don't meet in one building. All right, we're kind of scattered all over the Hudson Valley, which actually works for us. So we have men that are very dedicated to the LOP. We have men where I am on my side of the river in Dutchess County, very focused to the consistory. Up in Saugerties, it's the Rose Croix, and down in Westchester, it's the Council of Princes of Jerusalem. So again, when you talk about this, you want to say we meet on one night, we meet on multiple nights. You can be involved in all or one. It's up to you, all right? But at the end of the day, you're a member of the Valley, and that's very important. I found this as a nice addition to this presentation, and I thought this was really kind of neat. These are the Scottish Rite crest of what the different degrees look like, and I thought this was really kind of fun. If you've got someone, for instance, in your valley that can maybe talk some of the symbolism, that would be awesome. That would be great. But I think this is a really nice way to show certain specific degrees being done. If there's a banner in the room, what these banners look like. Some valleys have all the banners, some of them only have 1 or 2. But I think these are really neat, and you can say that each one of these degrees have a specific message. They teach a specific moral value, and obviously, when we break out, each body obviously has its own set of directives as well on what degrees they're going to be teaching. I also like to talk about. Can you guys hear me? I was just muted. I like to talk about the Southern jurisdiction and the Northern Masonic jurisdiction. And I like to say, we're up here in the blue. This is us. This is what you'll be part of. Here we are here in New York, and everything else is a Southern jurisdiction. And I talk about, what each jurisdiction does and how they're a little bit different, but yet at the end of the day, we're still all brothers. All right. I often talk about, traveling, all right, and being able to go to other valleys and how important that is. At the end of the day, even though we've got a Southern jurisdiction and a Northern Masonic jurisdiction, we're all still brothers at the end of the day, which is amazing, all right? And I saw that firsthand when I was in Cleveland, because we had multiple Grand Lodges and other jurisdictions of Scottish Rite come to Cleveland when the Northern Masonic jurisdiction was having their Supreme Council session. And you really get a flavor for how large an organization this really is. So it's pretty amazing, and it really is. It's a wonderful thing. Now, what I do in our presentation is I talk specifically about the Valley of the Hudson. And then this is where you can actually take this presentation and you can modify it really for your valley, all right? So from our perspective, one of the things that I always say to everyone is that our valley is unique. It's a little bit different because we don't meet in one place. But I'll also say that that diversity really is our strength. And I accentuate that in this presentation. So I talk about the Valley of the Hudson. And again, I would take this slide if I were you, and I would modify it for your valley. So if I was pitching the Valley of the Hudson, what I like to say is I like to say we're a unique Scottish Rite Valley, unlike any other in the Northern Masonic jurisdiction. We are unto ourselves one valley that meets in multiple places. And I show these different counties across the Hudson Valley where we really have concentration. We have 4 distinct bodies that meet at 4 different locations. However, those 4 bodies equal one valley. So though we meet separately and we have separate groups, separate bodies, we're one valley, and that's what's very important. In our case, the Valley of the Hudson is designed to serve all Freemasons in the lower Hudson Valley region of New York State. So we really focus to the folks right above New York City all the way up to Columbia and Greene County. Members can support one body or all. I can see, a lot of guys will say, do I have to go to all the meetings? You can go to all the meetings. You can just go to one. All right. But we would like to see you show up to certainly show up to the reunions in the spring and fall. And we'd like to see you be active in the social, philanthropic, and obviously fraternal nights that we sponsor. What we like about our setup is it allows for maximum participation. So again, if you want to be involved in one or all, if you want to travel a lot, you're more than welcome to do it. All right. And what's really cool is our membership, quite frankly, and I'm proud of this, has grown to over 300. Actually, we're at about 356, I believe, it's actually now not even 15 years. I think we're going to be 10 years old next year. So we're growing exponentially because this was kind of an untapped area. And I think we do a really good job with our ambassadors of talking up who we are. So in your presentation, when you take this deck, you can make it your own, quite frankly, and you can change this to show the flavor of your valley. What I also did, and I think this is important, is, I would show the nights that you meet, and I do this for our presentation. I'll say, hey, listen, if you want to see the 4th or the 14th degree, it's going to be done by our LOP. They meet in Middletown. If you need the 5th or the 16th degree, that's our John Homa Council of Princes of Jerusalem. That's going to meet, down in Westchester County. Chapter Rose Croix, they meet up in Saugerties. They're responsible for the 17th to 18th degree. And then our consistory is the 19th through 32nd, and they meet in Wappingers Falls. So what's good about this is it, again, if you were going to join the Valley of the Hudson, it shows our diversity, but it also shows, what each one of the bodies do and where they meet and the nights they meet. So I think that's hugely important. So in your case, your valley might meet in one place. That's absolutely fine. And maybe you don't need to have all these addresses in there, maybe one solid address for everybody is, but you might want to talk about what the valley does when they meet on those specific nights. But I would definitely designate the degrees that they do. All right. So how do we promote the Scottish Rite? And I at the end of the day, I'm an old sales guy. And I was always taught from my first day of selling, always be prospecting. So what I think a good ambassador should be doing is always looking for potential new members. You've really got to identify who those Freemasons are in your district or your lodge or the lodge down the road, who is not a Scottish Rite Mason, and how you can pitch Scottish Rite to them. So you always need to be thinking about that. So from my perspective, it's all about branding. All right. And I believe that the product that we sell in the Scottish Rite is the fellowship of Scottish Rite. I really, truly believe that. I look at this as not only as a fraternity, but a fellowship that I'm very proud to be part of. All right. So your targeted audience are the members of your lodge or your district, and that's what you should stay focused to. So for instance, if I was the ambassador for Chicomico Lodge that meets here in Pleasant Valley, I would certainly go to the master in the beginning of his term and say, listen, I would like to sponsor a Scottish Rite Get to Know Us night. Can I have 15 or 20 minutes to stand up in front of the brothers, be the work of the evening, and talk about who we are? We have the Right on the Road program, which you can obviously use. So there's so many tools available to you and so many different methodologies that we can deliver a great, strong Scottish Rite message. You could use this presentation if you'd like, parts of it, whatever you'd like to do. But I would also strongly suggest that if you're going to be an ambassador, get a good team behind you. Get some men in the lodge that are already Scottish Rite Masons. Maybe have them wear their caps. Maybe kind of be your proof source and let them talk about why being a Scottish Rite Mason is so important. But never take your eyes off the fact that you're really branding the Fellowship of Scottish Rite, your personal journey, the experiences that you've had, and that your target audience is that designated lodge or district. All right. The other thing you got to be very aware of, and this is something, my daughter's getting married next year, and my future son-in-law, he's in law enforcement, and he really wants to become a Freemason. All right. But he works odd shifts. All right. Being in law enforcement. And I have to be very aware that even though he wants to be a Mason, I don't know how active he'll really be because he has very limited spare time. All right. He's a young guy. He works he does a lot of doubles. He works at night. All right. And that's obviously when a lot of lodges meet. It's a lot when a lot of, Scottish Rite bodies meet, valleys meet. So you got to be very aware that today men have limited time to spare. They have family obligations, work responsibilities, fraternal commitments, and you have outside interests. The only reason I bring that up to you is because I think what we have to do is be conscious, and we have to be able to offer to these men a really robust, strong program. All right, that's one of the things that I'm very, very proud of with the Valley of the Hudson is we have a lot of young guys. All right, but what I'm noticing is they're coming to some of our bigger events because they want to be part of it. All right, sometimes they can't make the local meetings, but they come to our reunions, or they come to a feast day. They come to those things because they see the value in it. We're providing a great program. So that's something that when you brand Scottish Rite, you want to talk about the fellowship, but you also want to take into consideration that if we're looking for a younger man or even an older gentleman, everyone has obligations, and they're obviously involved in their lodge, maybe involved in the shrine, whatever it might be. But think about that when you're branding. So what I think it comes down to, it's all about value. All right. So I often will tell our ambassadors, partner with the value of membership and promote the differentiating points of the Scottish Rite experience, not only for the individual that you're pitching, but for their families. You never want to leave out the fact that Scottish Rite is a family organization. So I break it down this way. I talk about philanthropy. To me, brothers, I'll be honest with you, the Grand Omnibus Fund is a phenomenal initiative done by our Northern Masonic jurisdiction. It is unbelievable. The Scottish Rite should hold their head high on what they do with the Grand Omnibus Fund. I have actually helped brothers who have been in a bad way get the funding they need to maybe keep their house going, pay some hospital bills, whatever it is. I've seen firsthand how phenomenal that Grand Omnibus Fund is. And what's interesting is men today, they want to join fraternity. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves that does things for other people. And I always say to our ambassadors, the Grand Omnibus Fund, man, that is a huge selling point, even above and beyond the value of fraternity and the value of fellowship. You've really got to talk that up as an ambassador. And in your training, you should do that. The Dyslexia Centers, another phenomenal milestone that we as Scottish Rite Masons can be very proud of. Maybe in your area, you don't have a Dyslexia Center, but I say, you know what, still support the Dyslexia Center for where it is in a specific geographic area and in the state of New York, because it's helping children. And everyone wants to help, excuse me, wants to help children. That's really, really important. So I would hit home of the Grand Omnibus Fund, and the Dyslexia Center. Scholarships for higher education, the amount of scholarship money that we give away just here in our own COD. I'll be quite frank with you, my children, all three of them, were benefactors of those scholarships, along with what's given on a national basis. So those 3 points alone, the scholarship, Dyslexia Center, the Grand Omnibus Fund, phenomenal projects. All right, something I don't have here and I should is our ROTC program. All right, which again, that's a phenomenal program, that junior ROTC program, something that we should advocate strongly to potential new men looking at the Scottish Rite. Without a doubt, very important for an ambassador to talk about that. I'm a big social guy. I think the social aspects are huge too. Reunions, all right. I love going to our fall and spring reunions. It gives me an opportunity to greet and meet brothers that I might not have seen for a while. I get to see degrees, maybe for the 5th time, but it doesn't matter. I always get something new out of it. All right. I get to, break some bread with new brothers. I get to know who they are. So reunions are awesome. So we want to talk about as ambassadors reunions. The inter-valley travel. All right. going up to, let's say, the Valley of Schenectady, or them coming down to us, or going to Valley of All, whatever it is, that inter-valley travel is a lot of fun. I talked about when Dave Barkstead and a few of us got into a car and we drove up to the Valley of Boston. We still talk about to this day how well we were treated and the level of professionalism that was put into that event. So you really want to emphasize the inter-valley travel. Talk about the honors, talk about the awards, the Knights of the Double Eagle, the Passport Program. We were at the COD. My Valley, I think, had over 10 or 12 men who received the Golden Passport Award, which was awesome. That's great. And again, that takes time to be able to do that. But it's something that, you can say to a potential new member, hey, here's our passport. Every time you see a degree, it gets stamped. If you fill this out, you're going to get honored by our own COD and the Valley. Again, another way to give you some accolades. And I think that's great. We have a really strong Knights of St. Andrew program. Again, that service organization. If you've got some individuals that are very drawn to service, here's a way that you, as a Scottish Rite Mason, can make sure that you're showing service or giving service, not only to the Valley, but then when the COD calls, you can get very involved. And certainly, for instance, like Luke Gordon, I know, who's on this call today, he's our chieftain of the Knights of St. Andrew. I would have Luke talk about that, all right? Because Luke knows that program really, really, really well. And then obviously Valley-wide social gatherings. In the Valley of the Hudson, we have a Commander-in-Chief's reception where we welcome the new Commander-in-Chief. We honor those men to whom honors are due. And it's a wonderful social activity for you and your wife and I wouldn't say children so much, but for you and your wife. Certainly, it's a wonderful evening. Bobby Burns dinner, one of the best events that I think we do in the Scottish Rite. It's wonderful. Peter Fleehan, when we run out in Middletown, he did the Ode to the Haggis, all right? Did it in English, then he did it in I think it was 15th century Gaelic. It was unbelievable how he did it, and did it all from memory, all right? Again, I still have men who talk about that evening because it was so much fun doing the Bobby Burns dinner. Feast of the Paschal Lamb, again, another phenomenal event to have where we remember our brothers, those who have passed on. And again, you can invite non-Scottish Rite men to a Bobby Burns dinner or a Commander-in-Chief's reception or a Feast of the Paschal Lamb. We're having the Feast of Tishri tomorrow over in Middletown in our Lodge of Perfection. A great opportunity to invite someone to that, all right, who's a non-Scottish Rite Mason. Certainly, if they join the Valley, they become even more integral. They can become part of the degree and everything else. Scottish Rite Youth Days, awesome, great thing. And just your own personal Scottish Rite journey of what you've experienced in the Scottish Rite are things as an ambassador we should be talking about. So it's selling yourself, but it's also selling the program. The other thing besides it's all about next steps and doing what you're doing, it's all about presentation. So I believe that lodge presentations are excellent, okay? Again, I would ask the master of the lodge that you're focused to be the work of the evening. Potentially sponsor a light collation, maybe some coffee and cake after the meeting. All right, sponsored by Scottish Rite. Maybe even make a little sign on a collation table and say, collation tonight sponsored by the Valley of the Hudson or the Valley of Schenectady, whatever it might be. Coordinate a get to know the Scottish Rite night. I think these are awesome, all right? And they're simple to do. Invite prospective members and their wives. I mean, this is something you can do down in your Valley. One of the things that we've talked about in the Valley of the Hudson is having a Valley wine and cheese party, all right, where you invite potential Scottish Rite Masons, their wife. You have a nice social interaction. You ask the men to maybe participate in a presentation about Scottish Rite, or better yet, do it in front of the wife and the potential prospect. Talk about the attributes, everything we just bulleted out, and then hand out petitions and say, we'd love you to be part of us. All right. It's very simple, but it's an easy way in some respects to market and sell who the Scottish Rite is. You want to keep your presentation, that we're going through today, take bits and pieces of it, but keep it light and to the point. And what you should be doing is begin building relationships. One of the things that I experienced when I went to Cleveland, Ohio to receive my 33rd, and this was amazing, was everyone is given a lanyard. All right. So if you're already a 33rd, the lanyard color was different. But if you're a prospective 33rd, getting your 33rd degree, you were given a yellow lanyard. I have it right next to me. And my wife was given one too. So they knew that we were candidates to get the degree. And one of the things that Mike Morris said to me, one of the things that Rick Powell said to me is, you're gonna have more people come up to you and shake your hand and congratulate you for getting this than you can ever imagine. You know what? So think about taking that type of perspective and doing that in a get to know us night, maybe putting a distinct color pin or a lanyard around the prospective brother and their wife. So everyone comes up and shakes their hand and say, hey, we're so glad that you're here. We're really looking forward to you to becoming part of us. That's the way you build this, boys. I mean, I'm telling you, that's how you do it. You begin by building relationships. Involve your prospect from the start and create that early member sustainability where people feel, wow, this is really inclusive. It's not exclusive. They really want me to be part of this. So it's all about selling who you are and what the Scottish Rite brings as an ambassador. So what tools do you use? Well, you utilize your kit that we discussed earlier. You can modify this deck for your own needs, all right? And if you don't have good PowerPoint skills and you want to call me up, I'll be happy to work through that with you. I would also invite guest speakers to assist you. You know, I can tell you, anybody on this Excelsior team would be happy to be a guest speaker if you have a get to know us night or an open house or whatever it is. I would be happy to come down and enthusiastically talk about why someone should join the Valley of Troy, the Valley of the Hudson, the Valley, whatever it is, Utica, it doesn't matter. We want to help you guys proliferate membership, and we want to help your ambassadors get really good at that. So we'll be happy to do that, all right? You might need a projector if you're going to show some type of presentation like we looked at today, maybe a nice backdrop or screen, some handouts about the Scottish Rite. And then honestly, collation is huge. Have some kind of food. People will want to get drawn to some nice food. I would definitely do that if you promise that, but I would certainly absolutely do that. So for me, it's all about next steps, all right? So you want to make sure that when you're, as an ambassador, when you're talking about who you are and what you're about, it's exposing your prospect to really good, strong social media. If you have a Valley website, like we have a Valley of the Hudson website, we expose people to that. Valley of the Hudson Facebook page, we have a very, very active Facebook page. If they're on Facebook, invite them to the page, see how much activity is put on that. The New York Council of Deliberation, the COD website, drive them to the website. The Supreme Council website, drive them to that website. That's also very important as well, so that they see we have a very strong social media presence. And at the end, guys, really, it's all about follow-up as an ambassador. I like to either send with someone a thank you note, or I send them a thank you call for attending a presentation. I like to remain close to people, all right? And again, help them with that fraternal journey, getting them through it. Send an email to each prospective member. Rewind some dates, time, place of upcoming reunions or Valley-wide events. Tell them that you really want them to be there, all right? You want them to be part of your Valley. If it's a social mixer, thank their wives, all right? Very important. As my wife always says, happy wife, happy life. She's 100% correct. And I think that if you sent a quick note or an email, whatever, and said, hey, hey, Bill, thanks for coming to, our get to know us night. Thank you for, bringing Leslie. I'm very excited to, hopefully see you in our Valley. Best wishes, Bob Siebold, Ambassador of Valley of the Hudson. Can be something very simple like that, but if you're noting their wife in a communication, I think that's huge. You always want to make sure that you're spelling people's names correctly, that you got all their contact information down. So check your accuracy. Again, make sure they have some kind of literature about the Scottish Rite. They understand, they got our petition, they know how to do it online. Walk them through it if they need help with that. If someone says, hey, I'm not really sure about this, I think it's maybe too much of a commitment of time, and maybe that's an offline conversation, that's a one-on-one conversation. So set that time up so you can discuss joining the Scottish Rite. And again, the way I look at it is wait on this, because as an ambassador, membership recruitment is a perishable product and it spoils easily if not properly cared for. So you've got to engage as an ambassador with potential new members consistently, but make sure you're following them from A to Z through that process. So that's the presentation, guys. So again, I'll just emphasize with all of you that this can be modified for your Valley. And I went through this a little quickly today. Obviously, if we were doing this in an ambassador training, I would have done this a little bit more slower. I would have taken my time. We would have been answering questions as we go along, and certainly we'll answer them here at the end. But I will tell you, take this presentation and modify it to be your own. And if you need help in any of this, or I can be of assistance to you in a live presentation or a virtual presentation, I'll be happy to help you with that. So with that, Rick, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen.
Thanks for spending time with XLCR 32. The experiences, comments, opinions, and views shared on this program are those of individual Freemasons and do not reflect the official position of any Grand Lodge, Concordant, or Pendant body. Until we meet again, keep on reaching higher.